Hello folks, we're back again. I'm going to go ahead and make a new project today. And it's going to be a cabinet for underneath the storage area of our Rockwell saw. And, something I've been wanting to do. Haven't made very many cabinets in a while. And I've already got the pieces cut out. Let me show you. I've already cut out my top and bottom pieces for the cabinet. It's going to be 18 inches deep and 41 inches wide when we're all done for the cabinet. This is the top piece here. This is the bottom. And underneath that, we have the sides. And they're 30 inches by 18 inches. And we're going to be using Kreg screws with glue. Some people say you don't have to use glue with the screws, but I like to have good reinforcement. So majority of this whole project will be is doing Kreg screw fastening with glue, and then we'll go into the face frame, which I'm going to be using cherry lumber. So let's go ahead and get at it. Okay, we're going to lay out some lines for our top and bottom of our cabinet, and these are going to be for the Kreg Jig screws that we're going to use. And we'll start out on the edge, and we're just going to figure, go about 2 inches in on the side and making that mark. And we'll put double screws in. You don't get too close to the edge with these. And I got this marked as the top, inside, bottom, and this is the back. So what we're going to do is we're going to need nothing for the back, because the back will be screwed in to the inside of the cabinet once we get to that point. But what I got to do is over here, we're going to be putting a face frame in. So we've got to put some screws in for the face frame. Okay, this jig we're using is the Kreg K4 Master jig. I've had this for a number of years. It works very, very well. You can adjust it for from 1/2 inch up to 1.5 inches thickness of lumber or material that you're going to be using. As you can see, I have a onboard dust collection hooked up to it, which came with the system. Very nice feature. And what you do is you just basically, depending on what kind of wood or thickness of wood you're going to be using, is you have a gauge on here. Let's see if I can get it in here. There you go. You got a gauge right here, and you loosen this screw and you just move it up and down for your thickness of wood. Then when you get done with that, you take your drill bit, and with this bolt out of here, you take and you set it in place like here, to where your spacer, your stop guide, fits into that groove there. And then you just loosen the Allen wrench or Allen screw and get it to where you slide it up to where it actually says 3/4 of an inch here, and that's representing the thickness of your lumber. If you have either one of these set too shallow, you're going to blow right through the wood itself, and or you won't get a deep enough, the screw won't fit in right properly when you attach it. So it's very important to have those two measurements on your drill guide, your spacer, and then your depth gauge on your wood itself. This also has an adapter or a clamp to where you can adjust this and tighten it with a wrench. And when you close this forward, it pushes the plunger of the wood up against the stop guide and it ensures a good tight seal, so when you're cutting or drilling into it, it doesn't move and wobble on you. We'll be using that here very shortly. So what I've done, we'll start with this one. Take the board, you take your lines. Here's a rest for your board. And you take your lines and you line it up. You have two different types. You got A and C, which are spread equally apart, and then you have B in the center, which is closer to the C. So if you want to do smaller projects, you can run two screws in close for like stiles and rails, which we'll be doing later on in the video. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to go ahead, put that line right on B, clamp, turn our vacuum on, and drill our hole. Got a nice pocket hole set for your depth that you need. And when you do this right and you have it set for the depth, for the thickness of the wood, it requires you to use 1.25" screws. Now they make two different types of screws, coarse and fine thread. The coarse thread is used for pine, which we're using here for this plywood, or for plywood. And then they have fine, which is used for hardwood. We'll be using probably coarse throughout both. No, excuse me, we'll be using fine for the face frame because I intend on using cherry lumber for our face frame on the cabinet. So we'll be going with that, with fine threads. And fine threads you don't need it, or coarse threads you don't need it for the hardwood because of the hardness of the wood itself. Fine threads are good enough for a grip, but pine or any softwood with the coarse threads, you want to be able to have a good tight bond when you screw them in. So I'll go ahead and do the rest of these off camera, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we got our sides now. I already got the top and bottom already pocket holed in. So what we got is, we're going to mark this side the left, and this side the right. And this is going to be the inside of the compartment. And this is going to be back and back. So like I said, the back of the part is going to be put in later, and that will be pocket holed into the sides and the top and bottom from the back. So we'll just leave that as is. And what we need to do now is we need to make our marks for our face frame. Hook up to 6/8 inches is fine. I might double them here on the edges. I'm going to make them long enough so you can see them when you get ready to the pocket hole. And as I said, this is going to be an 18-inch deep cabinet, and we have 16-inch drawer slides. So I have 16-inch deep drawers, or 17-inch deep drawers for it to fit. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I decided I'm going to go ahead and make a shelf underneath the cabinet, in the top part of the cabinet. But we have to account for a drawer that we're going to have in here that's going to be about 4.5 inches deep. So what I did was I went ahead and I measured 10 inches down from the top. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and drill a pilot hole, and then we're going to set a pin to hold it in place while we do the rest of them. So all I do is I just take this is a jig from Kreg, shelf pin jig, and you can drill either 1/4 inch or 5mm pins for this, so it'll accept either one, where you can make your shelves with either size pin. Just go ahead and drill this one. What I did was I took a 1/4 inch brad point drill bit, and I put a lock spacer on it, and I measured it for the same depth for a 5mm pin, so it'll go ahead and accommodate this. It should work out. So here we go. Okay, so we take our guide pin. There we go. That'll keep it from sliding in and out. So we'll just continue on. And there you go. Evenly spaced pins. I'm going to be using 1.25 inch screws for this to drive them in. And basically what it is a screw that comes in at an angle, and will actually penetrate into the other board and sock it tight. We're going to add a little bit of glue to it just to get a little extra measure. Once I get the glue in, I'll be using my Kreg clamp to hold this temporarily till I get some of the screws in. And it's a square bit driver. You want to have your drill set on number 1 for low speed, and you can set your torques to anywhere from 20 to 22 depending on your drill itself. I don't normally use mine. I go by feel. When it stocks in, I stop, because I don't drive it in that fast. So we're going to go ahead and put some glue on here, on the edge. Doesn't take a whole lot. I mean, mechanical fasteners are good for this instance, but I just want to make sure that's going to be there forever. And whoever decides and gets this place after I'm gone, they can have the fun of trying to take it apart. So here we go. I just use the Kreg vice grips, get it lined up here, clamp it, that's it. Let's see if we can get a couple screws in here. There you go. Talk a little bit more about when we use the Kreg screws for the face frame. There's a certain way you have to use your wood. Oh, come on. There we go. There's a right way and a wrong way of putting these screws in to use as fasteners. I learned the hard way. There, done. I used a Wen track saw to square up this sheet of plywood 1/2 inch thick, and that's what we're going to use for the back. I got to make my last final cut, and the way I got it set up on the table saw, I wasn't able to use the track saw, so what I'm going to use is freehand with my Ryobi 18 volt +1 saw. Okay, we'll do a quick mark off for our lines for the inside. And because, like I said, we're using 1/2 inch sheet here against a 3/4 inch, Kreg recommends using a 1 inch screw, which is exactly what we're going to be using. And to find that, have a handy dandy screw thickness guide. Depending if you're gonna go like this, where you have it flat here and going vertical, horizontal vertical, or if you flip it over and you're going flat to flat like we'll be doing with face frame work, it'll give you either size. So what I did was I used A for this being A and this being B. So all I did was I took A, which is 1/2 inch, and I spun this wheel around to 3/4 inch, and all it does is it tells you 1/2 inch jig setting, and we change it to a 1 inch screw. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go back over to the Kreg and adjust it from 3/4 inch drilling depth to 1/2 inch, and I'm going to have to adjust the drill itself, the drill bit, with the depth stop also to 1/2 inch in order for this to work properly. So let me go ahead and put these lines on off camera and get that Kreg system all set up, and I'll go ahead and get all the holes drilled, and we'll have this laid down ready to insert this into the back. Okay folks, we got the back all pocketed hole done on the back here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up and lay this down on top of this, get it all set and flat, and then I'll be putting the screws in, and I'll be doing that off camera because you won't be able to see it because of the height of the cabinet, but just wanted to show you what we've got done here. Okay, we've got the back installed. Now we're going to go ahead and get the face frame worked up, and I'll be a little more detailed than that on the video for face framing. We're going to be using cherry rough lumber, and we're going to go about 1.5 inches wide for our stiles and rails. It seems to be the best fit for me. My other cabinets that I built here in the shop, I used 1.5 inch rails and stiles, and seemed to work pretty good, and it seems to work out all right for what I'm doing here. So like I said, we're going to be using cherry, so we'll use a little bit of what we have here. The other cabinets here in the shop are oak. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take this one board here, it's a little over 8 foot long, we're going to cut it in half because we don't need anything over 41 inches wide for the width of the cabinet itself. So we're going to cut everything down to 4 foot, Be easier to work with the planer and the table saw. And then I'm going to take another one that's about 7 foot, and we're going to cut that down to 3.5 feet because we don't need anything over 30 inches or 33 inches for a height for this cabinet. So we should be in good luck. So here we go. Okay, that should be it. Now go ahead and take it over to the planer, plane it down 3/4 of an inch, and we'll go to the next step. Good sides of the lumber and mark them, and then mark our dimensions, and we'll start getting it ready to put pocket screws in to assemble. What I have here is a 1/2 inch spiral combination up cut, down cut router bit, and I've taken this fence here and I put a 1/16 of an inch shim behind it. And what that does is it causes this to come out just a hair out over this by a 1/16 of an inch. Whoops, sorry. By a 1/16 of an inch here. And then what I do is I line it up against the router bit, and I make this go from a 1/16, and I move it ahead or behind just a hair behind the router bit. Okay, and what that does is it gives a better cut. I used to just line it right up flat with the router bit, and it didn't give me a decent cut. So what I do is I get it close, and then I just put it a hair behind, and it seems to give it a better cut. This is an alternative if you don't have a joiner, which I do not, and it seems to work pretty decent, and it gets you a straighter cut than anything. Oh, by the way, if this says here, is your router height locked? I had an incident with a previous router bit. This is my replacement. What happened is I was cutting, and I've done this for years, and this is the first time I run into this. I turned the router on, and I started doing what we just did with the router, or going to do with the router, and all of a sudden the bit started to drop. And I thought maybe I didn't have it tight in the collet. And I usually make pretty good sure that I have it snug enough for it not to drop. But it was dropping down, and next thing I know, the bit started dropping even lower, and I realized what happened. Well, by the time I shut the router off, the bit had dropped down and hit the housing. The router fell right out of the housing, and the bit hit the housing, and this is the bit itself, and I have it up here. Whoops! I have it up here mounted on the fence to give you an idea. This is what the router bit normally looks like. This is what happens when you have the carbide tip hit the aluminum housing, and that all that was just aluminum that it hit, and it took it right out. So just a little word of warning that if you're using a router table, please make sure that you have your router bits tight in the collet, and or you make sure that you have your router height, once adjusted, locked in. And it's just a little safety note. Okay, here's the layout of the face frame. I already cut the rails and the stiles. Stiles being here, 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 and rails here, there, and there, and there. So we got them all cut out, I got them all spaced, got it figured out how I want to have my drawers for the top. They're going to be about 5.5 inches high for drawer space, which should be adequate for the shop itself. And then we'll have the 2 doors down below. And the center stile is 3 inches wide, and it'll complement the 1.5 inches on either side, because when you put the door in, it'll break it up and it'll make it look more symmetrical. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get the Kreg system set up, and then we'll go into a video of that. And what I've done is I've taken our rails and I marked them all as front. So you want to keep your best side. So I marked them front. That way I don't put the pocket holes in the wrong side. So got the rails all set, and we're going to be putting 2 side by side. Kreg recommends that if you're using material width of 1 inch to 2 inches, use B and C. If you're using 2 to 3, use A and C, or A and B. And if you're doing 3 to 6, you want to use A and C. Just anything over 3 to 4 or 4. So in this case, we're going to be using these 2 pilot holes to put our pockets in. Now, the reason why I was saying that it's very important to watch how you do this. If you put your pocket hole in this way, your wood is going to go in and it's going to be cutting into the fibers of the grain of the wood, and it won't have very good holding power. But if you put the pocket holes in this way, they'll come down, and the way the screws are made with the flat head or the flat bottom, they'll grip onto this part of the wood and it won't drive through, and it'll be driving into wood with a grain this way, cross grain, and you'll get a much tighter connection. Trust me, in the past I've done this, but I made the mistake, and it doesn't really work very well. You get a very weak joint, it tears apart. So okay, so what we're going to do, we'll start with these rails, and I'm just getting it so it's lined up. Clamp it in. Make sure I got this right. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Get the camera set up for the next part. I got my Kreg clamp here. Made a little jig to give me a 90-degree face angle on here so I can hold my pieces together and keep them squared up. And I got the clamp in. It just fits into one of the holes, and then you just clamp it tight, and then you insert a screw. Good. Now we'll just go all the way around. There we go, folks. Full-size face frame for that cabinet. And we'll go ahead and we'll install it. And then we'll work on the doors. Let's see how this face frame fits on this cabinet. Oh, by the way, how come you people didn't tell me that I use 1-inch screws when I'm supposed to use 1 1/4-inch screws? I had to take them all out, put them all, the bigger screws in to make it a little bit tighter, but that's okay. Hey, we make mistakes. Happy accidents. Okay, let's see what we got here. Let's see how this looks. Get it lined up here on the bottom. There. How's that up there, guys? Looking pretty good. All I need now to do is just clamp it and screw it together. Alright. All done with that. So that's what we get when we do a case. Build a case out of plywood and we do a face frame for the case. So it looks a lot prettier than what I did in my hand drawings. Okay, we're going to set ourselves up to make the drawers. And what we're going to do is decide I was going to make it about 5 1/4 inches deep. And the depth is going to be the same depth as the drawer slide, 16 inches. And the width will be 16.5 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to square up this edge on these two boards. And we're going to cut our sides first at 16 inches. Okay, we got our basic box design set up for our drawer. This is the front, the back, and I have it all set and it's all square. And what I'm going to do is something a little bit different than what other people normally do. And that is I'm going to glue and screw down on each side of the front and back. And then we're going to go ahead and take and cut our sheet of plywood to fit the base or the bottom, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to pocket screw that into place from the other side. So let me go ahead and get set up here, and we'll go ahead and start putting this together. Now I'm just pre-drilling holes in the first part of the plywood, that way we don't have any splittage and it should be able to draw it tighter. You don't have to go heavy on the glue, just a little skim coat, just enough to make it matter. There we go. Not too bad. Okay, we got our bottoms all cut out to size, and I went ahead and I put pocket screws in, pocket holes in for them, and let's go ahead and see how it fits and put them in. Put one in right here. Okay. Not bad. Okay, we got our drawer slide extensions fully out, and we've already installed, got everything all tightened up. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the drawer on top of these Kreg Jigs to hold the drawer in place, and we've got it set properly to the proper height that it needs to be. And once we set the drawer on, we'll go ahead and be able to screw it in place. So what we do is we basically slide it in so, as such, and you want to take your drawer slide end and put it right flush, because we're going to be putting a piece of cherry over the front of this. We're going to go ahead and put these right flush, or a little bit behind there, as such. And then all we're going to do is just a matter of putting screws in. What I'll do is I'll put a screw into the vertical mount. I'll show you on the other side. Okay, can you see this right here? We're going to go ahead and we're put a screw right in here. And what this will do, this will allow us to be able to move the drawer up and down on the slide to get it properly aligned if we need it. There. Now we'll put one back here in one of the round holes. That'll give us a pivot to work off from. These drawer slides are really nice. Easy to work. There. Okay. Now we'll take our clamps off. Where are you? See how we do here. Okay, we're a little low on the bottom here, on this side. Whoops. Still a little low. Might have to reposition that screw. Screw in the round hole on this side. Much better. Just a little sanding will take care of that. It's all the fine tuning. There we go. Nice. All of these items that I've been showing you from Kreg Jigs, I'll have a description in the website you can click on in the description below, and they have you can buy the pieces individually, or they have a kit now for cabinet making, and it's a combined kit of just about all of what I'm using right now for this cabinet that you can purchase, minus the pocket hole system. So just check it out if you're interested. And oh, by the way, if you wouldn't mind and you like this content, please give me a thumbs up and click subscribe if you want to see more content. It is absolutely free for the subscription. You do not have to pay anything. I'm not into Patreon. I don't have any sponsors. This is all my free doing. But I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe if you like more content. Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll get on to the next part of the project.